Ethan sat motionless on the edge of the hospital bed, his hands gripping the thin white sheets as if they could anchor him to a reality that was slipping away. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air, but all he could hear were the doctor's words echoing inside his head, "You have only 3 months left." 3 months. 90 days. It didn't matter how he counted it, the weight of it crushed him like a stone pressing down on his chest. For years, Ethan had been the heir to everything, his father's empire, sprawling estates, a life most people only dreamed of. The world had always bent to his will. Money could buy influence, possessions, even temporary happiness. But in that cold room, surrounded by beeping monitors and the quiet shuffle of nurses outside the door, Ethan felt powerless for the first time. His body was failing, his future dissolving before his eyes, and no amount of wealth could buy back the time slipping through his fingers. He thought about the endless nights of parties, the cars lined up in his garage, the mansions scattered across the globe. None of it mattered now. The laughter had been hollow, the luxuries empty. Sitting there, Ethan realized he had lived surrounded by everything except the one thing that truly mattered, meaning. A deep loneliness filled him, sharper than any physical pain. For the first time, he understood that peace, love, and purpose were treasures his billions could never buy. Ethan wandered aimlessly through the city streets, the cool evening air brushing against his skin. He wanted to escape the suffocating silence of the hospital and the empty luxury of his home, but no destination seemed to matter. His expensive shoes clicked against the pavement, yet he felt smaller with every step, as if the weight of his secret was pulling him closer to the ground. Turning into a quiet park, he slowed down. Children laughed as they chased one another, their carefree joy echoing through the fading light. For a moment, Ethan stood still, watching them, feeling like an outsider looking into a world he had never truly belonged to. He sank onto a worn wooden bench, his mind heavy with thoughts of how little time he had left. That's when he noticed her. A young woman sat cross-legged on the grass nearby, sketching intently on a crumpled piece of paper. Her clothes were simple, her shoes worn, but her expression was calm, almost radiant. She wasn't surrounded by expensive gadgets or sparkling jewelry, only a broken pencil and a small sketchbook. Yet, there was a light in her eyes that drew him in. She looked up briefly and caught his gaze. Instead of curiosity about who he was or the wealth he carried, her smile was warm and genuine, like she had known his soul long before his name. Ethan didn't know why, but something inside him stirred. For the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of life. The next day, Ethan found himself back at the park, almost against his own will. Something about the girl's quiet presence had stayed with him, cutting through the noise of his thoughts. She was there again, sitting in the same spot, sketching with that same worn pencil. Gathering his courage, he walked over. Her name was Lily. She spoke with a gentle voice, her words carrying warmth instead of judgment. When Ethan asked what she was drawing, she showed him, a simple sketch of the sky, the birds, and children playing. It wasn't grand or perfect, but it was alive. For someone who had everything money could buy, Ethan realized he had never stopped to notice such little details. Over the days that followed, Ethan returned. Lily shared moments of her world with him, feeding breadcrumbs to pigeons, laughing as kids splashed in a fountain, sitting in silence to watch the sun melt into the horizon. They sang songs with children on street corners, their voices imperfect but joyful. For Ethan, each moment felt like a breath of fresh air, a reminder that life wasn't measured in years, but in the beauty of ordinary days. He began to smile again, to laugh without forcing it. Lily never asked about his wealth or status, she treated him like a friend, a human being, not a billionaire's son doomed by illness. And in her company, Ethan discovered something priceless: life was still worth living, even if his time was running out. One evening, after a long day spent wandering the city streets together, Ethan walked Lily back to the tiny neighborhood where she lived. The buildings were old, paint peeling from the walls, and the stairwell smelled faintly of dampness. She invited him in, shyly at first, and he was surprised by how small the space was, just 2 rooms with bare furniture and a flickering bulb overhead. Her little brother sat at the table, hunched over his schoolbooks, his face lighting up when Lily placed a small plate of bread before him. Ethan noticed how she hadn't eaten all day, though she brushed it off with a smile. Later, when her brother went to bed, Ethan asked quietly, "Why do you give everything to him, when you already have so little?" Lily paused, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes soft but steady. "Because he's all I have. I gave up my chance at college so he could stay in school. I go hungry so he won't. It's not a sacrifice to me, it's love. Kindness is the only thing we can leave behind, Ethan. That's how we live forever." Her words hit him harder than any doctor's diagnosis ever had. Here she was, with nothing, yet she was richer than he had ever been. He felt his throat tighten, his chest ache, not from illness, but from the truth sinking in. Tears welled in his eyes as he whispered, "You're teaching me how to live, even while I'm dying." As the weeks slipped by, Ethan's strength began to fade, but his heart grew lighter with each passing day. The fear of death that once haunted him now seemed distant, replaced by a quiet resolve. He knew he could not change his fate, but he could change what he left behind. One evening, as Lily and her brother sat with him, he revealed the decision that had been burning inside him. "I don't want my life to end as just a name on a hospital chart," he said softly. "I want it to mean something. For you. For him. For children who never got a chance." Through his father's connections, Ethan arranged for a scholarship fund in Lily's name. It would cover her brother's education and countless other children like him, kids who carried dreams but lacked the means to chase them. Lily's eyes widened in shock, tears spilling as she tried to protest. But Ethan only smiled. "This isn't charity. It's the legacy I want. You showed me what truly matters, Lily. You gave me life when I was already dying." On his final morning, sunlight streamed through the hospital window as Lily sat by his side, holding his hand. His breaths were shallow, but his gaze was peaceful. With tears glistening, Ethan whispered, "You were my miracle." And with a faint smile, he closed his eyes for the last time. Lily pressed his hand to her heart and whispered, "You'll live forever, Ethan, not in time, but in love."